Howdy folks, it's Owen Williams here, Ritual Brewing Company. I'd like to give you a real quick tour today of our brewing process and our brewing equipment. Behind me is a 65,000 pound silo. This contains American Pale 2-row malt. The varietal is called Alex. It's from Roar Malting. It is a Brewer Supply Group product. It goes through an auger. An auger is just a tube with a little bit of a helix on the inside. Come on, let's go inside and I'll show you around. Step right in through the manway door here. And make sure I get my camera person to where they don't get biffed. Okay, right into this room. It gets augered in through this auger, this tube here, goes in through a counterweight dump scale, goes into the mill. This is where the specialty malt goes in. So 10 to 15% of our grist bill will go in through here. And this is a specialty malt there. The mill just basically cracks the grain, doesn't pulverize it, doesn't powderize it, just cracks it, gets augered up in through another auger that goes over into the grist hopper. So the grist hopper tube, or the auger tube itself, is 120 feet long. It takes about a minute for that grain to go from the mill over into what's called the grist hopper. The grist hopper is just above the mash tun. This is just above our hydration point. This is where we mix the grain with the water in order to start the enzymatic reaction, breaking down the carbohydrates into simple sugars. So, grist hopper at the top holds 3,000 pounds. Mash lauter tun here. This is where the cooking of the grain brings into carbohydrates into soluble solution and breaks down the carbohydrates for monosaccharides away from polysaccharides. This is a hot water tank or a hot liquor tank. This is where we generate all of our hot water. A diverter panel to where we can take the wort and move it back and forth, or chemicals back and forth, or water back and forth. And then we put it over into the kettle. When it's in the kettle, we add hops. It'll boil in there for about an hour to an hour and a half. After it's boiled, we'll spin the liquid around and around. It's called a whirlpool action. It will set up the trube pile or the hop pile on the inside, and then we'll draw off of the side. We take the hot sweet liquid, goes in through what's called a heat exchanger, plate heat exchanger. Comes out of the plate heat exchanger nice and cold and goes into the fermenter. What's neat about this system is we have a cold water tank, a cold liquor tank if you will, and it goes in one side of the plate heat exchanger and cools down the wort, and it'll come out nice and hot and goes back into our hot water tank, and then the hot wort goes out of the kettle through the heat exchanger, comes out nice and cool. Sample port for taking sterile samples. Oxygenation stone for giving the wort a breath of fresh air here. And it goes through this hose and it goes into the fermenter. When it's in the fermenter, this is all clean and sanitary prior to this. When it goes into the fermenter, we wind up pitching a certain type of yeast in order for the type of beer that we're making, and it will cause fermentation. This is really where the beer is being made. Brewers don't really make the beer, they just make the yeast very, very happy. So this is fermentation that's occurring, that's CO2 that's coming off in that gas. We have 420 barrels of fermentation capacity here, 4 60-barrel fermenters, 2 90-barrel fermenters, 2 60-barrel bright tanks. When the beer is done, and it's ready to be moved, it's matured, it's conditioned where it should, it will move into the bright beer tank, a lagering tank, or a conditioning tank, or a tax determination vessel is what it's called. When it's in this tank, we'll force carbonate it. There on the other side of this tube here is a centered stainless steel tube, and it diffuses the gas for us, and we'll diffuse gas, either nitrogen or CO2, into that beer. In this one, you can illustrate, you can see how much liquid's actually in this tank. Looks like there's just about 16 1/4 barrels of beer in there, so about 33 kegs. Put this right over here so it doesn't get wet. So that beer in there is conditioned, ready to go. You're standing here in the middle of the delivery room. This is where all the beer is packaged. It's either canned, kegged, or bottled right here. This is a 90-barrel bright beer tank. This is where all of the beer, once again, just like the other tanks, sets and gets ready to go for packaging. Keg washer. This is what washes the inside of the kegs. It's important for all the kegs to be clean and neat. Then we're going to go into the lab. The lab is where we conduct all of our laboratory experiments and qualitative measurements. We've got an incubator, we've got shaker plates, photospectrometer, centrifuge, microwave, refrigerator, and this is where we test all of the microbiological elements that might be possibly in beer that would be a beer spoiler. We want to make sure that we don't have any spoilers in the beer. This is where a negative result is a good thing. We don't want to get a positive result. A little autoclave for sanitizing anything that we might need. And then let's step on into the serving room. This is a keg serving room. This is where all of the beer gets served. It's at a comfortable, just above freezing. So in these tanks here, or these kegs here, we have all our different yeast cultures. They're stored nice and cold and ready to go for the next generation. We're ready to use them. And all of the beers that you see, all the kegs you see here, these are all the beers that are on tap, ready to be served. So they'll go through the wall and they'll be good there. Any questions, comments, or editorials? Okay, great. Let's move on. What else do we need to see? What generates your hot side? Well, it's a steam boiler. It's a low pressure steam boiler. This is a Wright Engineering low pressure steam boiler. It won't go over 15 psi. It generates steam that goes up and out over into the brew house. This is what boils our beer. This is what cooks our grain for us. So we call for steam, and this is the place that generates it. We have a resin filter. This softens the water just for the boiler. It's a closed system also, so all the water is reused. This is a granulated activated carbon filter. This filters all of the water that we have for all the brew house and at the other side of the tap room. One thing a lot of breweries don't have are a wash station, just in case someone gets a hot wort on them or there's a chemical exposure in that, they get their eyes washed out, or a shower. The other thing it's important about breweries is conditioning temperatures and fermentation temperatures. This is a control panel that controls all of the temperatures for all of the fermenters. You can see this one fermenter sitting at a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This one is a bright beer tank. It's sitting at 1 degree, so it's just above freezing. So it's nice and cold, ready to be fermented, or ready to be packaged and get put out into the public. Okay? I'm trying to think of anything else that you folks might want to see very, very quickly. And the only other thing we have are packages that are ready to be sorted out and ready for consumption. So here you go. Here's El Dorado. This is a can of our single rye beer, and it's ready to go. We're just checking it to make sure there are no leakers in it, and it's ready to come out on Monday. All right, I think that's it. Have yourself a fresh and flavorful day. Thanks for watching.